Hello, everyone. So excited to have you guys on. Welcome to the Earth Angel Experience podcast. Today is going to be a super awesome episode. We have my mentor, Kay, that's going to be joining us. So I'm super excited. I am on a little bit early, so I'm just waiting for Kay to join. And then, of course, we'll join the live. So excited you guys are here. Hi, Rock the Face. Thank you for joining. Hello, I'm just waiting for our wonderful guests to arrive so that I can welcome her into the room. This is going to be super exciting. So we're speaking with my mentor. She's also an amazing author, an amazing human, an amazing soul. So let's see. Kay, are you on, my love? Let's see. There you are. Now let me know if you guys can hear me.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Kay. Thank you for joining. We're right on time too, so perfect. I was just welcoming everyone to the Earth Angel Experience podcast. Again, the purpose of this podcast is to share love, to share light, to share wisdom and knowledge, and just to release any and all stigmas that may be relating to communing with the other side, whether those of you consider yourself psychic or medium. This is all in hope to get you guys to begin to open up the conversation and welcome you all into beyond the five senses. And I'm honored today to have Kay Reynolds here. Kay is just an amazing soul, amazing human. She's my mentor. I've been mentoring with her for almost a year now, and I can say that it's been a year of so much transformation, just elevating just even my wisdom and knowledge and what I knew of mediumship. It's just gone to a whole nother level with Kay. So Kay, I want to thank you so much for being a part of my journey. So Kay is an author. Kay has been working with the Arthur Finley School for, I would say you were an educator for 30 years now, or about that.
Can I just jump in?
And
Yes. Educator, yes, but not at the Arthur
yeah,
Finley College.
yes. Oh, okay, that's great. But
Yes.
you've been doing this for a very long time, and you've studied with, you know, your own mentors that are just world renowned. So this is just amazing to have you on the show. And yes, okay, I just want to welcome you again and for your
Thank
time
you.
for being here. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
So, Kay, I just wanted to just start out with having you just explain a little bit about yourself, a little bit about who you are, about how you came into mediumship, how did you discover it, and what led you to embark on this journey.
Geez, we have to go way back. Way back. You know, my first experience with seeing spirit was around the age of 5, 6 maybe. I saw a Native American Indian in my bedroom very plainly. I still remember it quite vividly today. And that was my beginning. And I've always just known that this person was with me, as well as many more, you know, growing up as a child. So you know, I've always been aware of the spirit world, didn't really understand it, didn't know what, I didn't understand it at all, never afraid of it. Felt nothing but pure love from this native man that I saw. And so I've never ever feared it, ever. But for the most part, growing up, it was mostly in my dreams. And then I would say probably around the age of 12, 13, I started seeing spirit again, like I saw the native, but I was seeing others as well. So that's the beginning of it. Still, again, never thought anything of it. I just knew it was just a part of me. So I never really questioned it. Never heard the word medium until probably in my late 20s is the first time I ever.
So all this time that all this was happening to you, it just, and it's ironic because I've always felt that my story and your story is so similar, because it's almost like
Yeah,
we're just around it and it happened,
yeah,
but we couldn't really make sense of it, probably because of just the early age and not being ready for it. So it's just so interesting. So when they started, I guess I'm gonna collectively call they, like your spirit team, your helpers, your angels, your guides, when they started, I guess, coming in more when you were in your teenage years and older, what was there one instance where you thought, oh my gosh, like this is what this is, or this is how I know I'm going to continue on
yeah.
this journey, or I have to investigate more? Was there a
No.
specific moment that happened for you?
No. It to me, it was just a natural occurrence. So I never questioned it when I was young, never ever. And it was when I was, in my late 20s, 30, early 30s, maybe late 20s, probably more like it. But I just, I saw on Oprah, she had somebody on TV who was a medium. And as I sat and listened to her, I was like, oh my God, that's what I do. That's what I do. and I really still just kind of blew it off and just thought, you know, those people are the ones that are on TV. It's not really me, even though it sounds like me, and I just kind of, had that mentality. But it really, I had a serious health scare when I lived in Germany, and it really started becoming even more prominent because at this point other people were starting to show up that I didn't know, and I was connecting them to other people that I do know, and that was new to me. And then I ended up, because of my health, ended up moving to England because that's where my doctor was. And so I moved to England, and then it just kind of just blew wide open. And my dad in the spirit world is the one that really pushed me to explore more. And I literally put him through a ringer. Prove to me that I'm not crazy.
And what was your dad doing? Was he coming to you? Via clairvoyance? Were you hearing him? Were you sensing him? What was that? How was he coming to you? Where you realized, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
My dad is here. He's guiding
I was
me, and this
just
is where I
talking
need
to
to be
him
right
in my
now.
head, and this had been going on for a while, and my grandfather as well, his dad as well. And I just, one day I lived in what they call the Fens in England, which is flat land, farmland. And I had like a 30-minute drive across the Fens, and I was driving, and I was having this conversation with him in my head. And I said, all right, Dad, I need some proof here. If I'm really talking to you, prove it. Just prove it to me right now. Putting you on the spot. And out of nowhere, driving across these farmlands, this oncoming car came immediately. And on the license tag, it had KK, which is what my dad called me. And
that is amazing. And isn't it amazing though, when spirit communicates with you, it's always in a way that resonates with you, where it's them speaking to you, and it's a direct message to you that you can't even question.
I did, I kind of laughed and chuckled, and I went, oh, that's good. But I'm not, because, I'm stubborn, and I said, you're going to have to give me more, Dad. I need more proof. A second car came, and it had the letters LD, which is my dad's name. His name is, he only has initials. That's it for his name. And I went, okay, you got my attention now. I was
That
like,
is
okay.
amazing. And so
I was
as you were
driving,
driving,
yeah,
that's amazing. So as you were driving, this was going on. And so what did you realize at that moment? Once your dad sent you those messages via those
yeah.
vehicles in the middle of these lands,
The
what was
next
that
thought in
next
my
thought
head
in your
was,
head?
okay, this is real. I really am talking to my dad. I really am talking, because I was talking to had been talking to my granddad. And I also kind of had a feeling that my grandmother was around as well, my mother's side of the family. And then I lived in this like forever old, like 400-year-old barn is where I lived, that they had converted into a home. And I used to joke all the time and swear up and down that there was a cow in my house. Because every time I walked into a specific room of this house, it was like L-shaped. And every time I walked into this room, I would hear a cow moo. And so that was the big.
And there were no cows,
There were
right? There
no
were no cows around that
cows
you could see.
anywhere. I did live, it was in the country, it was in the fens, but it was farmland. So it was crops. It wasn't, there were animals, but they were pigs or sheep. There were no cows and nowhere near me. And so I was like, what the heck is going on here? So there were so many things. And then everything that had occurred when I got really ill. And, just, you just start putting everything together, and then my whole life. So my dad really started nudging me to get on and Google and find out more. And that's when I discovered the Arthur Findlay College. But I didn't live far from the Arthur Findlay College. It's like, less than an hour away. But yeah, I just didn't feel that I was ready for that to go there.
And so when you finally decided I'm going to go to this school. So for those of you who don't know, Kay, can you explain a little
Sure.
bit about the Arthur Findlay College and what they're known
Yeah.
for and how big of
Yeah,
a
the
deal
Arthur
they
Findlay
are?
College is in Stansted, England, and it's just outside of London. And it's an amazing place. It's known worldwide for the teaching of psychic studies, mediumship, and spiritualism. So it's part of the Spiritualist National Union, which is spiritualist churches, which are really big in the United Kingdom. And Arthur Findlay College, Arthur Findlay, it was his home. And when he died, he left it to the Spiritualist National Union. And so now this huge home, which is, I call it Hogwarts because it kind of reminds me of Hogwarts, is dedicated to training mediums and healers as well.
That's amazing. And so when you finally mustered up the courage to go here to study here, how was that experience? I'm sure, we spoke about this in class, but how those moments where you felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this. This is like at a whole nother level for me. Like what was that development like for you? And the reason why I'm asking this is because I know so many people watching and so many people that I know, they feel that they have they think they might have these gifts or these abilities, but they don't know for sure because the ego comes in and like, oh, that's not, you're just overthinking or you're crazy or going crazy. So what were those moments like for you, especially you developing at this school with all these mentors?
Like I said, it took me a while to get there. I discovered a circle in my little town, and I joined the circle, and it was fabulous. And it was a mother and a daughter who ran it, and they were amazing mediums. So I found them and started going there just to see, make sure I wasn't crazy. And
and it was safe.
and they assured me I wasn't. And that was an amazing experience with them. And then Tony Stockwell, some of you may have heard of him, but he had was big on TV there in England when I was living there. And I looked him up and took a class with him in Wales. And then from there, I finally started to get up the nerve to go to the Arthur Finley College. And it was amazing. I went, they have this, every spring, they have what they call open week, where you can go and just spend 20, then it was 20 pounds a day. And you could go and just listen to all their tutors, do lectures, and then watch demonstrations. So I was doing that. And on the last day, I decided I was going to sign up for a class. I just, I fell in love with the place, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to get up the nerve and I'm going to go sign up for a class. And I did. And it was oddly, I was going to sign up for mediumship, but I ended up signing up for this Native American class, which was really funny. It's like, why did I even do that? I wasn't planning on it, but when I was registering, that's what I ended up doing at that split second, which was kind of funny. The tutors were all like.
And do you think that was because it was your guide's influence, since you said you mentioned your Native American guide? Do you think that, because from my experience, I feel that spirit will communicate to us, even though we may not be thinking about it in a certain way, they're always guiding us and leading us because they know what's better for us or the best for us. So how do you think that was your guide?
Possibly because there had been a guide that had been in the background that I'd known about for a while and hadn't come forward. I hadn't met her. And she actually came in during that week, and I was making a drum, and it was an all-day thing making this drum, and she was with me she came in and was right here and was teaching me and showing me and helping me with my hands as I was working this drum. And then later, the tutor, she came up to me and she says, "You're really engrossed and intent in this." And I said, "Yeah, I've got a guide here that's guiding me and helping me with this." And then later in the week, she's a spirit artist, and she gave me a reading, and that guide came through. And I've got her picture hanging just right over here. But she came through and she drew the picture, and she goes, "You're going to recognize her." And I was smiling as I was watching her draw. And I said, "Yeah, that's the one that showed up this week." I said, "I've known about her for a long time, but this week she's made herself known."
Yeah. That's amazing. And do you find that your guides and guides in general will come in when you need them? Are they always there with you? Or do you find that they just come in and then they're gone and you never see them again? Yeah. Or they're always there, but just maybe in the background? How do your guides?
You know what? I don't pay any attention to them, to be honest. I don't. I really don't. I mean, I know that they're with me when I'm working. I know that they're somewhere. But I don't really pay any attention to them. I don't need them to do my work. But they oversee it, I guess you could say, but they're always in the background watching. And I know that anytime I need to talk to any of them, I know that all I have to do is call and they're there. So I really, honestly, I don't pay much attention. Really.
And it's funny you say that, because one of the questions that I had for you, which a lot of people have asked me, is a day in the life of being a medium, are you constantly turning messages off? Are you walking around off? Are you constantly receiving? How is it that they're coming to you, and how is it that you're maintaining your boundary? Because spirit can come in, if allowed, they can come in and just be there all
I believe
the time.
that our
so how does that work for you?
Pulls them in, and unaware. We're not aware of it, but I do believe our subconscious can pull them in. Apparently that's something that I've worked out a long time ago, because I never allowed it when I was a kid. But my spirit team, they know, um, especially like on days where I'm working, they know that for me, I prefer not to have any contact with the spirit world until I am ready to work. And they know we have our cue words. They know when I'm ready, and it's a whoosh, and I feel them come in. But I don't. Yeah, I might be aware of the spirit world on a psychic level, but I don't take it beyond that.
You don't take it beyond. So basically you have, and it's similar to me. Like, for example, I feel that
Mhm.
before we were about to do this podcast for the past few days, there has been different guides and different people
Yeah.
in my bedroom watching me sleep. So I've had to tell them, thank you for being here. I know you're probably, helping support me on this wonderful podcast with Kay, but I need to sleep tonight. So you have to literally like let them know. So that way it's like, I feel you. Thank you for being there. I'm going to go to bed. Please don't bother me. So do you do things like that? Because I do things
Yeah,
like that
when I
often.
was training, my guides were around a lot, and I was aware of them a lot. And sleep was, you know, interrupted sometimes. But you set your boundaries and you have your conversations, and I always, when I training or anything that's important, I've always given spirit permission. It's like, I know that sometimes there's things that you need to say to me. And in my sleeping hours is when I get, because they've always communicated to me when I'm sleeping, always. I've always had dreams where I get messages and spirit contact and everything. So, but I do ask them, if you can, please just let me stay asleep. Don't wake me. But please, by all means, come and work with me when I'm sleeping. But please let me sleep.
Yes. And that's so funny because that has always been, that's how it started with me. It began with, first seeing people in my bedroom similar to you and the Native American, and then just them coming in my dreams and just speaking to me in my dreams, and then even events starting to happen in real life. And that's, again, but at that age, it was still really hard for me to understand what was going on. So I didn't really take it seriously
Yeah,
because
right.
of my age. I was only 5 or 6. So it's just interesting. But so this is so funny, and this is why I feel like you and I have so many things in common in our own, in our own journey, in our own way. Now, I have a question regarding your clairs. So when you were developing at the school, what would you say was your most dominant clair, and what was the clair that you really
Yeah.
had, or the clairs you really had to work on or
I never
towards?
worked on any clairs ever. Honestly, I didn't. I don't think that's necessary, because it's part of our soul's journey. It's the awakening of our soul. So I was never taught how to work on a clair anyway. It was just about being in touch with the spirit within and awakening that aspect of our soul that we needed to awaken. So when I first started in that circle way back, my clairvoyance was incredibly strong. I just saw little movies playing in my head, and they were very, very accurate. That's how I started. And then I went to a one-day workshop in Cambridge. It was put on by one of the tutors at the college, and he forbid us to use clairvoyance. I didn't even know what clairvoyance was. I didn't even know what a clair was. That's where I was in my development. And he wanted us to use clairsentience. And so on that day, I learned all about clairsentience, and my clairvoyance kind of went away. It just went to sleep for a little while. I went on vacation for about a year. And I learned how to use
Wow.
clairsentience. And then my clairvoyance gradually started coming back. And what I learned was I had to learn how to marry the two together and let them work simultaneously. But the thing is you do that inner work on your soul, and that's what awakens that aspect of our soul. We have our physical senses, our eyes, ears, touch, all of that. That's our physical, but we have spiritual senses that mirror the physical. And we all have them. Everybody does.
Right.
And it's just a matter of awakening that aspect of our soul. So that's the inner work that we have to do. And as you do your inner work, all your clairs will eventually begin to develop and open up. And so, your goal is you're using all of them whenever it's needed, and just allow them to come in.
So let's say, and I know you go about this in your book. So if someone is practicing medium, or they think that they might be a medium, or they feel that they're super strong psychic and they want to get into mediumship, how, in your opinion, is the best way for them to develop their power within? Their sense of self, in order to develop spiritually.
There's different ways of doing it. What I did was I sat in the power every day with my guides. I did it every day, mostly because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have guidance at that point, and my intuition was just saying, you need to do this every day. And so every day I sat with my guide, every single day, for about 45 minutes before work. And I've later learned that was very important. He wouldn't speak to me, he didn't talk to me during that time, but I could see him. And I asked him later, I said, why wouldn't you talk to me? That first year I sat with you. And he says, and he just explained to me that the goal of me sitting in the power every day with him was not to have conversation. It was for us to bond on a spiritual, energetic level, and for our energies to merge and blend together. That was our goal. And so once I got to that point, and that trust was being built during that time, then he started talking. So for me, it was sitting in the power. Some people can do this just through prayer, sing long prayers, a lot of sitting silently, quieting the mind and connecting to your higher power, as well as the greater power. So that's what it takes to do that. However that is. One of my mentors had great difficulty. She had a very active mind. And so she had great difficulty sitting in the power, sitting and quieting the mind down. But when she loved to iron, and when she ironed, that's when she could quiet the mind down. So she did it when she ironed. Some people do it, artists might do it when they're drawing or painting. So you have to find what works for you.
Right.
I know that, like, if my guide wants to talk to me about something, he'll come in and he'll say, let's go for a walk. And I just know that he needs to talk to me. And that's how we do it. So nature is another way for me. So you have to find what works.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. It's amazing, because it's finding what works for the individual. I know, like, for myself, I find that it's so easy for me to blend with spirit and communicate when I'm in meditating, and I meditate every day. Sometimes I'm off on the weekends because the kids are around, but I find that when it's quiet, the ego's quiet, when I'm able to quiet, even looking at the water outside or being by a big tree, that also helps. Yeah. So that's just amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So how would you describe the difference between, if someone considers themselves a psychic and someone considers themselves a medium? What is the difference between the two?
Well, I believe that we all have the ability to develop our psychic, because our psychic begins with imagination, which moves into our intuition. And then as you develop your intuition, then your psychic abilities begin to awaken. So I think we all have that ability to do that. So psychic is really, it's all soul to soul. So it's the ability to link your inner energy, your aura, your energetic field, whatever you want to call it, with the person that you're reading. You link the two together, because within our aura energy is everything we've ever experienced. It's imprinted within us, it's embedded. And so as a psychic, you're able to move into the energy of another person and become aware of experiences that they've been through. Thoughts?
And so psychic, so you're saying, so if I were to just restate that, psychic is more about the energy that's around the person that you're
psychic
feeling.
Is about the living.
Is that correct?
It's all about the living, right?
Right.
You can psychically put your hand on a wall of a castle. We used to have to do this, put our hands on the walls of castles and stuff like that, old buildings, and feel the imprint energy that was left behind. That's psychic as well. But psychic is all about everything in this world here. So mediumship is when your psychic, I might add, is the foundation for your mediumship. So you've got to build that strong psychic foundation in order for you to move into the mediumship, because your mediumship depends on that aspect of your soul, the psychic part. So for mediumship, your energy now all of a sudden moves upwards. So so psychic, my energy is all around me. Mediumship, I push the energy upwards and you connect with the spirit world. So mediumship is all about those that are in the other world.
And have you ever done readings? Have you ever done readings where someone wanted to come in for a mediumship reading, but you just received such a strong psychic imprint that you had to start out your readings doing psychic and then kind of moving into mediumship? Does that work that way for you?
Well, actually, a reading can be both. And I was trained to do a little bit of both in your readings, but sometimes you do have clients that want all psychic or all mediumship. I was also trained to meet the needs of the soul versus the client.
So can you explain that for those who don't know what that is?
For me, what I do is, with COVID and everything, I'm still very much, everything is via Zoom for me. So as soon as I see that name pop up across my screen that I've got my next client is available, that's when I do my connecting. I connect in with the soul of that client just to see what is their need. Do they need me to touch upon their own personal life, or are they needing to connect with the spirit world? And I already have an idea. Once I connect with them, I already have an idea of what their soul is telling me. But I always ask them, what is it that you're hoping for? And almost always they tell me exactly what I picked up on. And if they don't, I just ask them, if there's time, do you mind if I do da-da-da-da? And they're like, they'll either go, yeah, sure. But I do still try to meet the needs of what they came here hoping for. Yeah.
And now let's say if right before a client comes in, you just automatically start receiving. This has happened a lot, for me at least. If I'm waiting for someone to come in, you're just automatically sometimes just you're receiving information about them. Is this something that you would say is helpful because spirit is trying to help you along with the reading? Or is this something that you think is coming from the person, that they just desperately need this guidance and assistance and their helpers and guides are just trying to guide you along the way? What would you describe that when you start receiving information before the client
I don't receive anything. I'm just being honest. This is how I was trained. So I don't the way I have my boundaries set, I link in with soul to soul with my sitter. And and at that point, I'm not really looking at psychic. I'm looking at what does the soul need. So it's a soul to soul. So it's not psychic, it's soul. But I don't really connect psychically or mediumistically until I've got the client face to face with me.
Yeah.
And I say, are you ready to begin? And at that point, that's when I get this whoosh, and then stuff starts coming in. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's amazing. It's amazing because I feel that there are moments where I will wake up and spirit will tell
Yeah.
me you're going to receive a new customer client today, and I just know it. I don't know who the person is. I'll go in and there's someone knocking on the door and the person is
but
there. So it's just really interesting
different.
how that
That's
works.
not information about your customer. That's just giving you a heads up.
No. Yes, that's like a little nod, like, hey, by the way, there's, we're going to be working today. So yeah, so I do get a lot of that. That's amazing. Now, my question is, what would you recommend or say for those people who are afraid? Let's say those people who are afraid to tap in, that they do feel maybe even in their family that they're psychic or mediums, or there's people that have healing abilities and they may think that they have healing abilities, but they're afraid to tap into that. In your experience, have you ever had any scary moments or any moments where you've heard of something scary or things were just embellished, that you can understand why other people might be afraid of connecting?
I've never experienced anything negative. And, I've been doing this my whole life. And I've got grown grandchildren, so it's a long darn time.
You look great. You look great.
But here's everything that I've learned from the spirit world is that comes from the spirit world comes in love, and they only want what is in our highest purpose for our good. They come in love, and it's been my experience that they've always come in love. The only time I've ever been frightened by spirit, it wasn't even spirit, it was spirit, where they were slamming my doors closed in this bedroom that I lived in. And I didn't, and I heard them walk up the steps. And I didn't quite appreciate that. And I let them know that it was my dad.
Isn't it funny, though, how they try to get your attention? When I was a little girl, there was a spirit that wanted to get my attention. I wasn't afraid, just like you. It wasn't like a fearful thing. But I saw a pencil being like thrown across the room. I think I was
my dad.
11.
He was throwing pennies.
Your dad did that? Oh my gosh. It's just so funny because, and then people, or Hollywood, I would say, they make these stories and they embellish these stories about things moving and it's scary and really what it is, the spirit is just trying to get our attention or communicate with us or prove to us that they're there with us.
Absolutely.
Is that what you would say? Is that
for me, it's exciting when they do that. It takes a lot of energy for them to manifest and make that happen. So it's a big accomplishment for them, actually. But I get excited now. When the doors were slamming, that was at the very beginning of my journey. And I know so much more now. So now I'm like, yes. I get giddy over stuff like that. Here's the thing. The majority of the spirit world that is around us are people that are somehow connected to us. So they're either our family, it could be ancestors, but it can also be people that we know here. Like I've had friends, their loved ones in the spirit world will come around me because I'm connected to them. So there's always some kind of a connection with the people that are around. And I find that to be true for the most part. it's people that are somehow connected to us. And so, you know, why would you fear them if they are your loved ones, or if they belong to your friends, or, you know, people you're connected to? So, and they come in love. They come in love.
And there's so much peace. And it's just like that connection is just such a peace. It's almost a relief. You feel, at least in my experience, it's like you just feel light, and you feel like, oh, this is what it feels like for pure love, true love, right? To have that feeling in your heart is just like the most beautiful thing. But there are a lot of people who are fearful because of the religious aspect of it. So could you speak a little bit about those folks who maybe or grew up in a super religious background and they think that this is wrong, or mediumship is bad, or something they shouldn't do because their religion is against it? What do you think?
You know,
what are your thoughts about
there
that?
are many, many passages in the Bible that speak positively about the work that we do. So there are negative passages as well. And that's the one that everybody tends to focus on, is the negative. There's a wonderful book. I'm just going to look it up as we're chatting here. But there's a wonderful book that you can get on Amazon. I never can remember the whole name of it. But it's written by a Baptist preacher, just lives like 2 hours away from where I'm at right now. And he fell in love with a psychic. And it really bothered him. And they met at a church camp when they were teenagers. And it really, really bothered him a great deal. So long story short, he decided to dive full on into the studies of the Bible. This is how he became a preacher, actually. He went to seminary school to become a preacher, and his whole focus was to learn about the true meaning from a biblical sense of psychics and mediums. And he wrote a book about it, and he quotes scripture. And what he does is he quotes how most people interpret the scripture, and then he shows you another way of looking at it that puts it in a positive spin. And it was a great help, because I was raised in a very much in a Christian family, and it's a wonderful book. So I'm just going to keep looking. I've got it here somewhere.
Yeah, send it, and that way I can send at the end of the video. I'll put it in the comments so that folks can look it up, because I'm a true believer that, you know, mediumship development, and even if people are interested in psychic development, this isn't a destination, it's a journey. And so I fully believe that this is something that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. It's not like I have reached a certain destination and I'm done. There's everything, I know everything there is to learn. I honestly believe that the more we educate ourselves with reading books and going to lectures and seminars, and even taking mentorship classes with people that you respect and admire and you mesh well, I think that is really how the development of mediumship you can take that to the next level. What do you think about that? How, you being in the field for so long, what is your thoughts and theory? Are you still developing?
Well,
Are you a developing
I'm an
medium?
educator, so to me, you're a learner for life. You're a student for life. So absolutely, I'm still developing. My one of my mentors was still learning in her 80s, and she's traveled the world teaching mediumship, worked at the college for 50 plus years. So absolutely, you're always developing. It's the development of our souls. So you just continue, The name of the book is called The Bible, The Truth, The Bible,
wow.
The Truth about psychics and spiritual gifts.
Great. I'm going to put this for everyone
Kevin,
so that way. And who's the author?
And I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm probably going to get it wrong. Chopel, but it's, let me spell it. S-C-H-O-E-P-P-E-L.
Perfect. I'll make that, I'll put that to comment at the end of this video when I post it, because that's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, I feel that, again, you know, I really thank you for sharing that book, but I also want to talk more a little bit about your book, because this is like a book that is like my Bible. I literally, I travel with this book. And on those nights where I just can't sleep, I'm just reading the book, and it's just really interesting. Can you tell me, out of this beautiful concoction that you've created here, what would you say is either the most standout chapter or the thing that really hit home, where you realized at the end of you creating this book, like, wow, yes, I finally realized that. I finally learned that. That helped me take my mediumship to the next level.
I don't know if there's any one chapter that stands out. I think they all are equally important. I mean, because it's your journey that you're going through. So I think that depending on where you're at on your journey will depend on which chapter is the standout chapter for you as an individual. But you know, what my hope is that people get from this book is that this is the journey of your soul. It's a spiritual journey, and it doesn't happen overnight, and you'll have ups and downs, and you'll be going crazy, and that's okay. It's all part of it, and just stay with it, because even when you think it's all falling I can't even speak, falling apart, when you think it's all falling apart, in reality, behind the scenes, it might mean it's all coming together. You know?
Together. Right. There's a growth, growth spurt.
And what I learned is that I felt like I always had these goalposts to make, and that when I would finally make my goalpost, it would move. And every time it moved, it was like I started over again, because all the stuff that I'd learned prior to moving the goalpost was all still very relevant, but now they were giving me another piece to that, to add to it. And so I had to learn something brand new, and the struggle would start again. But it all comes together. It all comes together eventually.
I thank you for that. One of the things I really loved about the book is that there you have tips and tricks and tools and ways to work with oneself and ways to work with others. But I really love the part about blending with spirit. So can you talk a little bit about blending with spirit and how that can be helpful for those who are developing or wanting to know more and wanting to connect at a deeper level?
The thing about it is, you know, whether you're working psychically or mediumistically, you're blending. So you're either blending with the spirit of the living, or you're blending with the spirit of those in the other world. So when you sit in the power and you build the power, so your power is, look, your power is at the center of your core, where your solar plexus is. That's also where your clairsentience is. But it's also where all of your spiritual power resides, the power within. That's where it all resides. So when you're working, you expand that power upwards and outwards. That creates this beautiful channel for the spirit world to come in and blend with you. So it's almost as if, you know, this is me and this is spirit. We're coming together, and our energies are blending and intertwining like this. This is what we're doing. And when that happens, then we all of a sudden become aware of their life experiences. So that blending is so important. So we set our intent to work with the spirit world, but then we have to trust the spirit world. And once we learn how to truly trust, I said I trust for 3 years. I trusted on the outside, but I didn't trust on the inside. So once I truly, truly opened up and trusted fully, then what happens is you just surrender. And when you surrender, the spirit world says, all right, she surrendered. I come in. So our
Yes.
or expands, they can come in and they can blend. So if we're working and all of a sudden we get blank, possibly what's happened is we've stepped out of the power. When we step out of the power, the aura comes back in. So if the aura comes back in, draws back in, spirit has to step away. So you're not going to get a strong connection. You might be aware of something that you're snatching, but you're not really blending because so you have to just take a breath, shoot your energy back up, your aura back out. And as soon as you do, spirit's there waiting for you to do that. They'll come back in, but you got to blend again. So it's best to work on sustaining that power, and you do that by sitting in the power or staying with spirit for long periods of time. You're building that power so that they can come in. Yeah. But trust.
And what would you
say? Trust is big.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Trust is big. Because if you don't trust, then what I find is, and I find this also like in my healing sessions, a lot of people will come in and they have so much fear and they're just so afraid. And so I can see their angels and guides, but it's hard for them to come through if the person it's kind of pushing them away. So do you experience that? Like in your readings, let's say, has anyone ever came to you? Have you had a situation where someone wanted a reading, but they were just so fearful that it was almost as if you couldn't really, give the messages from spirit the way that you knew that they wanted, mainly because of the other person? Or do you think that could have just been your own power?
So,
how would you describe that situation?
Remember when I said that I connect on a soul level before I actually start my reading? So when I do that, I can pick up that anxiety and that fear. So when I do connect with them face to face on Zoom or in person, hopefully one day. So when I connect with them, I'm already aware intuitively. I'm already aware that they're apprehensive, they're fearful, there's anxiety going on here. So as the medium, my goal is to take care of that before I ever begin. And I just talk to them. My voice softens. I feel like I'm back in my first grade classroom talking to a first grader, not to diminish the adult in any way, but I just, I soften for them and just reassure them, that this is a natural process and that they're, because sometimes people will come to you and they think that if you're connecting with their loved one, it means their loved one is trapped in this world. And it doesn't mean that at all. Your loved ones are around you all the time anyway. There's just a very thin veil that separates our world and their world, but their world is all around us. And so I just kind of explain to them, they're everywhere, they're all around you. And if you allow, you'll feel their essence. You'll feel it. You might even get a sense that they're around. You just believe that. And I just try to put them at ease before I start. I want them to feel comfortable.
That's beautiful. And could you explain what are the sensations you feel? The calling cards from spirit, so to speak. A lot of people ask me, is that a calling card? I see numbers all the time, or I see feathers, or I see. What is your take on the calling cards? Do you think that it's specific for each person? Do you think that there's general dictionary language that they speak to us in?
Do you think
What do you
they are
think about
unique
that?
to each person? I know that, you know, a lot of people believe that, you know, if they see a cardinal or a butterfly or, you know, something, and that's fine if that resonates with you. But for me, my calling cards were different. Like with my dad, I always knew he was around because I'd get this split-second smell of a cigarette because he was a heavy smoker. So I always knew that was him when I would smell that. And for the most part, I don't ever smell that anymore unless he's trying to get my attention and I'm not paying attention. And then I'll get it. I have an uncle, and his calling card was an image of him would flash in my mind, just and then be gone. And so I always know when I get that from him. I know that. I have a sister in the spirit world, and I always feel her on my left side, and I feel the chill. I can feel her rub my arm. So it's different for me.
So funny, because when you were talking about your dad, I got the chills, and that happens. You know, how would you describe that sensation when we start feeling those sensations when spirit is near, or we're doing a reading for someone and all of a sudden we're feeling cold, or we feel hot, or we feel the goosebumps? Like what would you describe that
I
as,
do think
those
that's
sensations?
just spirit letting you know I'm here, or you're on the right track, you know. Or it could even be your intuition and your own soul speaking to you in certain circumstances, this letting you know, yes, you're on the right track, because then your soul knows what you're thinking, even if it's in your head. They know. Right. Your soul knows. So I just think that's just a way of your either your soul or the spirit world letting you know, yes, you're on the right. It's a confirmation.
It's like confirmation. Yeah. So it's like confirmation. And so when you receive synchronicities, do you think that the confirmations and synchronicities are one and the same, or they work a little bit differently? How would you describe a synchronicity? Give me a nice synchronicity that you've received. It could be in the beginning of your development or even recent synchronicity. So that way we can explain. Oh gosh, I can't even think of one off the
top of my head. Maybe even is it synchronicity? Well, when I was talking to my dad, you know, just things just start to happen, and it all starts adding up. Like, oh my God, there's something here. There's something like here. You know, lights, you know, flickering, and you know, all those little things or signs can be. My dad used to was in a wheelchair, and he had a special van, and when he passed away, his van was his livelihood because he was homebound. And when he passed away, my brother had that van, and they would lock the van all up and go in the house, and 5 minutes later the radio would be blaring in the van, well, the lights would be on in the van. So there were always things like that happening, you know, and they knew it was my dad. So he was always, he still manipulates electronics.
And they like to do that. I find that spirit likes to work with animals, with birds, with butterflies. They like to work that way. And do you think that they're working that way because it's an easy way for them to catch our attention?
They're constantly trying to get our attention. They're going to use whatever means they can. And electronics, for some reason, is something that my dad is able to manipulate quite well from the spirit world, which is really bizarre, because in life, no, not so much. But in the not so much. But in the spirit world, yes. You know, throw in the pennies. He was doing that very early on after his passing, but he was letting us know big time that he was very much still around and part of our lives, and he still does. You know, he manipulates my son's works for the railroad, and he manipulates his call radios and stuff all the time. He's always doing.
It's amazing. And even the knocks, like I hear knocks, you know, when spirit is around, there's certain guides that I have that do the knocking. It's really interesting. I feel like I can't let you go because I have a million questions for you, but I know we're running out of time. But can we just talk quickly about the psychic investigation a little bit? Because I know that that's something that you work on or work with or doing.
Well, what do you want to know? I mean, it's
how did you even get into that? How did that spark your interest? And are you still working on that now?
That sort of thing has always fascinated me. And it's really bizarre because for a long time I didn't believe I was a psychic, although I thoroughly enjoy working as a psychic now. It took me a while to get here to believe it, actually. But I've always had these things, didn't realize it was psychic. I do now. Where I could just be driving down the road, especially like overseas, where the war place, you know, where the World War II and everything, and I could just glance across the field and I could see the bodies. I can see the dead bodies, or touch a doorknob and get flashes of images of something that occurred in that spot. So I've always had that, not realizing it was my psychic abilities kicking in. And I've always been fascinated with the forensic kinds of things anyway. So Tony Stockwell had a couple, he's had a couple of TV shows on the BBC, but I would watch his psychic ones. He was a psychic detective. He's phenomenal at it. And I just thought to myself that I want to do that. I want to learn to do that. And when I lived in England, I kept waiting for Tony to do like a mentorship in it. And he finally did. And I was on my way out of the country to leave. I was leaving by then. I lived there for 11 years. In 11 years, he never did one. And then he finally did when I was leaving, and I wasn't going to be able to join it, I was very saddened by that. But he does them online now. So I took one of his online, and yeah. So that just started from there. That's where it started. But
That's amazing. And it's something that, so along with being an educator and doing your psychic investigation, where do you see yourself like moving forward and on your journey? Do you feel like you want to continue doing what you're doing? What are the next steps?
Well, for me, I in my own development, it is the psychic, forensic psychic investigator, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of where my focus is, because I really enjoy doing that. I just love that aspect of digging deeper, trying to get to the, you know, why did this happen and who did it, you know, all that kind of stuff. But so that's my focus right now. And I think there's a huge need for more psychic investigators in this world. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'm particularly interested in the sex trafficking of women and men, and boys and girls. I find that a lot of the cases that I've worked on lead back to that. And so not all of them, but a good part of them do. And so I'm really would like to explore that more and see if there's a role as a psychic detective in helping people with that.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that, your light and your gifts in helping other people
Yeah.
in that capacity.
Thank
That's
you.
very powerful.
Well, thank you for
It's
the
very beautiful.
invitation as well. Yeah.
Of course. And I just want to say, Kay, thank you so much. Thank you for being on the Earth Angel podcast. This is truly an honor. I love my mentorship
Thank
class
you.
with you. I think it's amazing. I love your book. So you guys can find her book, The Evidential Medium. You can also follow her on Instagram at Medium K Reynolds. And her website
Yes.
is kreynolds.org.
I have a YouTube.
Find Kay there.
Yeah,
And
I have a
her
YouTube channel as well where I have tutorials. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and she has really good meditation. So I do her meditations. I love the sitting in the power meditation for 30 minutes. So that's really what I work on every day. So I work on sitting in the power, and sometimes if I'm short on time, I'll do the power within. But she also has a really good one that's a blending with spirit. So I would highly recommend that on her YouTube channel. Yeah, definitely check her out, DM her, follow her. And if you guys have any questions for me, you can reach out to me. For her, you can reach out to her. And I hope you guys found this podcast, entertaining, enlightening, and all that good stuff. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing you in class.
absolutely. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Have a beautiful afternoon,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.